the scary things are pretty obvious. I mean, we've kind of covered it a lot today. But you know, when folks don't have faith in the outcome of an election because of either foreign actors or even at home that have meddled with ballots, have somehow swayed the outcome one way or the other, you know, that's a real fear, and it's something that we know through this conversation and others that is being attempted. And we've seen we have a history here in North Carolina of some fraud. We saw the 9th district ballot harvesting that went on. So, you know, anytime you've got those type of challenges, you do have to find ways to overcome that. I think Jordan's point was well made, that there's still much work to be done. There's not a silver bullet that will fix it all at one time. And part of that's just the nature of the, you know, complexity and the, you know, from funding to educating not just legislators, but the general public, but those that do the implementation as well. I think those are some of the scariest parts of how all this kind of fits together. You know, looking to the future, though, it does provide an opportunity for innovation. You know, we've had our own kind of battles over photo ID. But, you know, with technology comes the opportunity to absolutely authenticate voters. If we look at, you know, possibly at blockchain technology, that we can have some certainty and that the voter who shows up, they are who they say they are. Now that's not today, but it is being tested and tried in different places. I think that provides, you know, some restoring of faith for those who may have some doubts into a system. But it also would ultimately end up with how it's implemented, how it's monitored. So I think all these things, you know, enter into the conversation that have to be considered. I think, you know, in large part, Jordan, I think that's quite a compliment for what North Carolina's done. Doesn't mean we get it perfect, that's for sure. But we are doing some things right. And I think if you look at our election reform bill that came out this year through the House and Senate, had huge bipartisan support. And we worked on it together. And I think that also helps restore faith to a lot of folks who maybe had some doubts. But the challenges are real. I look forward to the innovation, what may come next through some of these problems. You know, I'm always an optimist. Americans, when we see a challenge, we find ways to overcome it and move on. But those are some of the real things that we're all having to consider. If you look, there's been some test cases in, I think, Italy. But if you look at other things that are being implemented as far as online security for different purposes, whether it be commerce or some other authentication, it's really already there. Then the real challenge becomes is how do you one adapt that to the public sector? How do you fund that? It's going to be, I'm sure it comes at a cost. But if we look at how that is evolving very quickly, you know, if you trust it as a way to transmit money, it certainly could be a way to transmit results and votes in an election. So I think it's more of just how quickly do we innovate to adapt that to the purpose that we need it, that would require that type of authentication. But you know, early in the conversation today, we were talking about Google Authenticator and some of the things the steps that I have to go through just to get to my email. But you know, some of the same things could happen, and if it's on the state level, you know, we are somewhat responsible for the identity of citizens if they are our citizens in a state. We've already done some pretty miraculous things with how we treat data in North Carolina already. We've got a government data analytics center that analyzes data, that works with our Department of Revenue at this point in time, and works with other departments across the state. So we have a large pool of data, making sure that we keep that data clean and uncorrupted. It has to be the first priority. But then how do you recognize that this is indeed a citizen who is eligible to vote, and they've only voted one time, and we can authenticate that, and they have every opportunity, and it may make it even easier to vote. So I think these things, society in our republic and participation, giving more folks an opportunity to participate, and then restoring also that type of certainty in the election.